And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, with another video. Hopefully you enjoyed the awards. Now we've got something different. We've got keep, sell, loan. I think we've done this previously for the last 2 years. We're going to go through the defenders and we're going to go through the goalkeepers. We're going to discuss again who we think is going to go on loan, who again our opinions on them, who we think should be in the squad, and what maybe what the squad, what LCFC think as well. We've got Ant, Austin, Alex here as well. We're all going to answer all your questions, but we'll get through to them right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the LCFC first team. We're going to look at that specifically for this. So, and we'll give you again. We'll go straight to you for the first one. Kasper Schmeichel for the first one. We've had mixed reviews this season. What are your thoughts in terms of him? And obviously his contract expires in 2023 as of time recording, so he hasn't signed a new contract. What are your thoughts about him?
Thing is, we've had this discussion throughout the season, really. Like, as a shot stopper, he's absolutely brilliant, but he's not that modern goalkeeper we need with the way that Brendan Rodgers wants us to play football. He can't play out from the back and he can't command his 6-yard box from corners, which I think is a big part of the reason that we concede as many goals as we do from corners. But for his overall leadership, I would keep him, but I wouldn't look to renew his contract. I'd keep him till the end of the contract and then let him go from that point. But at the same time, if the right offer did come in, I wouldn't be too opposed to him being sold. He's a club legend and all of that, but it's like all good things must come to an end at some point.
I guess so. Austin, have you got any thoughts on that as well? Because again, he's a great leader, a great squad player as well. And he has, I think there was, again, rumors a while back where he was going to go to Newcastle. Again, I think there's something that I'll speak to Newcastle fans and they were, or I'll speak to Man United fans and they were saying, no, Dean Henderson's going. So, and I couldn't see the advantage of getting Schmeichel over Henderson. But what are your thoughts? Keep him for the next season, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think he's the guy that we keep. Obviously, unless like Ant said that if we get the right offer, we'll sell him. But I think his leadership, I think, is really vital to us. And yeah, he doesn't play well out of the back. And I think like Ant, once his contract runs down, I don't think we sign him back. But I think he's the guy that we need as a leader to be in our squad.
I guess yeah, I kind of agree there. If Alex, in terms of Kasper Schmeichel, and obviously we can talk about Kasper Schmeichel, but also Danny Ward. I mean, we've not had players to kind of. We've seen this season with Danny Ward trying to push Schmeichel close and only having that one game, especially when the Newcastle rumors were coming true, really lit a firework and got people going, right, okay, he's right at the door. Then it gets his one cap in, then comes out again. Is he the right? Is Schmeichel still number one coming into next season?
I think that's a good discussion to kind of bring up because there's times that I have witnessed Schmeichel and it just seems like, age is slowly creeping up on him. And that's one thing that I've really kind of highlighted over this season. Like Ant said, his shot stopping is incredible, but there's so many holes in his game that are really starting to show. So for me, I'm kind of in that like 50-50 mark when it comes to Schmeichel. I think you have Danny Ward, who is definitely an up and coming, keeper who's still young, and he's the number one keeper for the Welsh squad. And I think time will tell, especially over the weekend. If Wales get into the World Cup, I think the discussion is just going to increase even more because if they are in the World Cup, Ward's going to want game time, and if Ward wants game time. Does that mean that Ward's on his way out? Does that mean Schmeichel's on his way out? Does that mean both of them are on their way out? When it comes to Schmeichel, I'm 50-50. I would, if the right offer came out, I'd keep him. I mean, I'd sell him. But at the same time, his leadership ability is incredible that, I don't want to lose him for, a cheap sell. But at the same time, I look at Danny Ward, I think that, I think that he's definitely a keeper that could definitely play for a Premier League side. It might be a lower club, lower tier club in the Premier League, but I think he's definitely a starting keeper. So it's tough. For me personally, if I could keep both, I would. But if the right opportunity for Schmeichel came about for the right price tag, I think I'd let him go.
Yeah, I kind of agree, and I mean, coming on the half of what Alex was saying in terms of the Kasper Schmeichel situation, who could really come in for him? Because he wants to play Champions League football. I think that's obvious now. We've not got it next season, but what other club would want to go and sign him? That's the thing. And I appreciate it. And I think he's a great keeper, but for his age, I don't know who would want to come in for him this season.
The only teams that I could see that sort of come in for him is someone who's going to come in who's sort of got a really good young keeper coming through, but isn't quite ready for the first team, who's sort of, they need a bit of a stopgap of a keeper, because you're not going to buy him for a long-term project, which is what Newcastle is, which is why Dean Henderson makes a lot more sense there. So that's the only kind of clubs that I could see sort of going in for Schmeichel. But something that we haven't mentioned, saying about the keepers and Danny Ward, we've had, I think, the highest performing Championship keeper out on loan at Preston this year in Daniel Iverson. If Danny Ward went, and I think for the sake of his own career, I love Danny Ward, but I think for the sake of his own career, he needs to go. I would be more than happy to see Iverson come back and be that second choice keeper, but actually be given those opportunities in the cup games. It's like if he comes back and isn't getting those opportunities in the cup games, it's sort of a pointless exercise. But obviously, we were going to talk about the youth players and stuff in another video, so we're going into much more details there. But the thing is, if one of the keepers does go, we're still in a very good position with the options that we have.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree there. And we have, again, the amount of keepers we've got in terms of Brad Young. There's a guy from, I think Unduzi. I think he's, I don't know if he's American. He's going to be Canadian. I can't remember. He's one of the two. Yeah, at the moment he's in that. He's huge as well. He's like 6'7". He's massive. But Austin, coming into that, is it just coming into kind of the Danny Ward, Kasper Schmeichel debate, because they are similar? If, as Alex was saying, if Wales do get in at the World Cup, he will want to play. So, but is he the person that's going to try and go out of his way to force a loan move or something to another team?
I'm not sure, but I think like Ant said, I think for the betterment of his career, I think he's got to move on. I don't ever see him getting the number one over Casper. Now, and I don't see him waiting 2 seasons to get that number one spot. And I think with Daniel Iverson having such a good season in the championship and likely our future number one, I just don't see how Danny Ward can progress. And I think in terms of him, it's probably way better to get loaned out or get sold.
This is just a disappointing one, isn't it, Alex? So to potentially sell one of our young and upcoming keepers that will come, but it's a really strange debate, I think, as well, because it's not an easy fix. It's really a tough situation for all people in hand, and including as well. I think one of them is Eldin Jakubovic. I mean, I'm bringing him up on screen now, but I was just reading about his contract situation at the moment. He expires June 30th, 2022, at 37 years of age. I mean, we've barely seen him apart from preseason. Apparently, he's quite liked by the members of the squad, but again, if Brendan Rodgers likes to have 3 senior goalkeepers, is because again, that would put a real spanner in the works in terms of him as well.
You know, it's such a difficult position because, you know, for me, I don't know if Jakubovic is. I already know I'm butchering his last name, but I don't know if he's the right player to have as your third keeper. You know, his age, he's up there in age. You know, if he's well liked in the dressing room, you know, maybe possibly adding him to the coaching staff. You know, that's just an option. You know, you maybe look at another option for, you know, a third keeper in that light. It makes the goalkeeping is such an interesting topic because I feel like I look at all 3 and I go, any one of these 3 could go this off season. Like truly any one of these 3 can go. You know, Schmeichel could go pending the price. Ward could go, simply put, that he wants game time. But you're going to want a return on Ward because I think we bought him for $12 million.
Mm-hmm.
So like you want a return on him. And you know, he's, in my eyes, he's too good to be a backup keeper. I think he's earned the right to play as a number one on some club in the Premier League. I think he has earned that, and I think he's good enough to do that. And then it just really comes down to it is that which one is going to leave, because I do not see all three of these keepers being here, come next season. I think one of them will be gone, and if one is gone, perhaps even two, pending the situation.
And you were going to say?
I was going to say, I'll be astounded if we offered Jakubovic another contract. We gave him another contract, where at the end of the first lockdown, when everyone was sort of struggling for a little bit of money, and you needed that third choice keeper. Now we've got so many keepers coming through. I don't think he's really needed, and it's like saying keeping him around for the dressing room and stuff and put him on the coaching stuff. I think he needs to go away and actually do his coaching badges and become sort of like qualified to become a coach sort of thing. But he's one of those. He played 2 games for us, didn't he? Like a few years ago at the end of the season. It was against Arsenal and Tottenham, but right at the end of the Claude Puel era. At the start of the Claude Puel era a few years ago. But apart from that, he's never really got a look in, because that's when Ben Hamer and Schmeichel both got injured, if I remember it correctly. But apart from that, he was signed as a third choice keeper, and that's what he's been. So, but good luck to him wherever he goes next, or if he more than likely retires, probably at his age.
And that's the thing, he's probably going to retire. I mean, Austin, have you got any final thoughts on that? It's just because, again, we could genuinely talk about this for the next half an hour, and I don't want to beat a dead horse a little bit. And again, we've got Iverson, we've got a load of Brad Young is going to be one of the great keepers from what we're hearing from the under 23s as well, under 18s. So, any other thoughts on that as well before we move on? Because it's such a hard debate, as Ant was and Alex was saying, for each individual person. You're on mute, mate.
I could easily see 2 of them go. I mean, easily. I think one of Schmeichel or Ward is going to leave, and I think Jakubovic is definitely going to leave. I don't know why we gave him a contract last time, but I mean, third keeper, that's just kind of been what's been happening among the Premier League teams. You see like Scott Carson getting signed and guys like that. But I mean, our goalkeeping situation is going to change so much between now and the start of next season.
It really is. Again, Schmeichel's on 2023. I think Danny Ward's on 2024. So it's not that long a period of time as well. Jakubovic probably be the most likely to retire and things like that as well. But yeah, so again, with that one, there's no easy solution, which is really annoying to give you, but it's just, again, it's our thoughts at the end of the day. So we'll go from the goalkeeper situation and we'll go down to a little bit more easy. Alex, we'll start off with you. James Justin. I mean, this one's pretty straightforward, isn't it? Instead of keep, loan, sell.
You hold on to James Justin as tight as possible, and you never let him go. I don't know what else to England.
I mean, I think we're all in there as well, and in terms of James Justin. Didn't have the best. Obviously, he came back from the injury this season. Got called up for the England squad, which is, again, I think we were all kind of surprised at, but in a good way. Build on him for the future. One for the future, eh?
Yeah, well, one for the present and the future, because he'll very much be a key part of the team next year as well. So, yeah, keep and build around him.
I mean, he's only 24, Austin. I mean, still a lot of... And what's scary is before he was injured, how good he was. We forget how good James Justin was. He was, again, we were saying he's going to keep Ricardo out of the team, he can Castagne out the team, he could play anywhere down that back line, which is why he got called up for the England squad. But, I mean, the ceiling is so high for this dude, and he's only 23.
Yeah, I mean, he's easily the future of he's one of the future of our team. I mean, he's so good, he's so versatile. He should have been in the England squad of the Euros if he didn't get hurt. He probably was going to be. I mean, how good he is. And he was pretty solid. I mean, he wasn't himself, but he just came off of a massive knee injury. I mean, he could be such a star that it's going to be imperative for us to keep control of him.
Yeah, definitely agree. Next one, Alex, Wesley Fofana. Need I say more, really? Again, James Justin was given a new contract, which shows he's here for the future. And Wesley Fofana, our defense was still shaky. However, he helped massively as a 21-year-old or 20-year-old. He helped massively when he came back from his injury.
Well, you're going to keep, Fofana as long as you possibly can. It's kind of the same as James Justin. You hold on to him as tight as possible, and you never let him go. But with Fofana, I think there was a lot of discussion prior to him signing that extension. There's been that talk being like, well, is he using Leicester as a leapfrog in a sense? Is he going to go off to another club, a higher end club? So the fact that he's signed on to a new extension is great for the club. But hats off to Fofana, because that injury at the start of in preseason was just horrendous. And I think you got to give it to both Fofana and Justin, because both of them came back from terrible injuries, and both of them have slotted themselves back into the starting 11 and really look like they've never missed a beat. And so with Fofana too, like, he's young and he's extremely talented. And, I hope, for the future, he is one of those core building blocks that they really build this club around.
Yeah, and I think they are. Again, giving a contract to 2027 was a hell of a statement. And again, I don't want to give him again, because the ceiling is going to be so high for him, and the fact that he says he wants to be here, win trophies with us. I mean, it only says good things as well.
Yeah, he's one of the best young centre backs in Europe, and I'm not exaggerating that by any means. He is a top talent, and what Alex said about potentially being here as a stepping stone. Ultimately, I do think he is here as a stepping stone, because he is that good that he will go on to one of the big club, like the top clubs, like the Real Madrids and sort of the PSGs of this world. But the fact that he's in no hurry to move on, and he's so young, there's no rush for him to move on. So do I think he's going to be here for the rest of his career? Absolutely not. I think he's going right to the top. But the fact that we've got him on a long-term contract, as you say, build around him, and he's really going to be one of the crucial players over the next few years.
I completely agree. Again, I don't want to cut you off, Austin, because I think we're just going to, in terms of time, I think we'll move on to the next person. Charles Sayuncu, he's had not a good season this season. What are your thoughts on Charla, and sell him, loaning? I mean, we are looking at rebuilding the squad. What do you think?
I mean, if we're really rebuilding the squad, I think you got to sell him. Now, he's had good seasons in the past, and he's been shown to be a good player, but this season was just so rough, and I don't know what could happen. I mean, I'm kind of 50-50 on keeping him or selling him. I really don't know what to think, because when he's on, him and Fofana are a really good pair together, especially we have three at the back, but just this season, I mean, it was so rare for him to have a good performance.
Yeah, it's been rare recurrence. Again, Alex, the few times, well, I think Brendan Rodgers actually threw him, especially the one I remember specifically was the Tottenham game, where Brendan Rodgers threw him right under the bus and said he pulled out of a challenge when he shouldn't have. And after that, I think he was dropped, and he didn't even feature for Leicester once Johnny Evans and Fofana was fit. Are we set? Are you with Austin like 50-50, or where do you stand with Charles Sayuncu?
I honestly think you need to sell him. I think if you're looking at building up the squad, and you need the cash flow to come back in order to buy these players that you're going to be bringing in, I think Sayuncu is going to allow you to if you could sell him for 20 mil, 25. I don't know what you're going to get for him, but I think that he's going to be one of the players that you're going to be able to sell with a price tag to a club that's looking for in my eyes, a reliable center back that I think just needs a change of scenery. I don't think, he started out great. I don't know if there's been something going on with him and, Rodgers, but I definitely think that something soured to a point where, he's still a capable center back, but I think he just needs a new, fresh, look at the game in a different place. And that's not saying he's going to go to a lower, a smaller club in the Premier League. But I think that he could still go to a top club in Europe and really deliver. I just think, if the opportunity arises, I think you need to take that. But I definitely think that we need to move on from Sayuncu. As much as I love Lord Farquaad, I definitely think it's the time to leave.
I mean, and I mean, coming on again, I'll give. I don't know if we talked about Sayuncu as well. I'll move on to the next one, just because unless you got anything else to offer on Sayuncu, Ryan Bertrand. Again, What are your stance on him? The reason why I bring them up is because again, he's one of the people that contract expires in 2023 as well.
We're stuck with him till 2023 because no one's going to pay him the wages that we are. So I'd say sell, but we're stuck with him. Like, if we're being completely honest about it.
Yeah, I guess we are. But at the same time, Austin, we'll get into a little bit later in terms of some of the players we could put out on loan, and one of them specifically a left winger. But in terms of backup, he just doesn't look the same since COVID. Do you think that's gonna now we've got a preseason under his belt? He's kind of recovered from his injury and he's out because he was out for the rest of the season. Is it a case of we just reset, refresh for the next year with Ryan Bertrand? Because there is a player in there, and we've seen in the preseason he was phenomenal against Man City, against Villarreal. He was playing phenomenally well, and if he reaches them levels, he's up there with Justin, Castagna, and Ricardo.
Yeah, and I think, and not to get too ahead of ourselves, but this also depends on what we say about Luke Thomas. Because if you keep Luke Thomas, then what's the point of having Bertrand? But if you want to loan Luke Thomas, then Ryan Birch is a really good player to have as a backup. So I think he's a good player, and I think he's a veteran player that we need in the back, especially with all these young guys back here. So I think you need to keep him.
I mean, it makes a good point, Alex, in terms of we haven't got the most experienced squad. We know that we're lacking a little bit. He's been there, he has done it, but he's not delivered where we've needed to, especially towards the earlier part of the season where he's playing more and more games.
My biggest concern with Bertrand is his fitness. If he can stay fit, I think he's a reliable, second or third string left back. But if he's not fit, you're just paying some guy's salary to do nothing. And I think that's my biggest concern. If the club decides to, send Thomas out on loan, which is totally understandable, and I think that's the right choice for Thomas. My biggest concern is that, you're relying on Castagna and Justin, and then you have Bertrand. But Bertrand could easily go down with an injury, or he might just not be fit enough. And then you're stuck with two. Castagna's dealt with injuries too. Justin's dealt with injuries. You're kind of thinning the line. So I'm really skeptical with Bertrand. I don't know. I agree with Ant. I think we're stuck with him until the end of his contract. No one's gonna pay anything to get him. But I think he's just, as bad as it sounds, I think he's just dead wood. Like, I think he's along for the ride, and he's going to be stuck with the club until the end of his contract.
Yeah, I could see what you mean, but again, if he can hit them levels that he did, in my opinion, I think he could do something. But I'm not convinced by it from what I've seen so far. But most of the time he's been injured or had COVID through that as well. And Johnny Evans, I mean, this goes without saying. I know there was rumors as well that he's looking at a 12-month extension onto his contract as well. And with the limited game time we've got, him playing less games is only going to elongate his time at Leicester City.
Keep 100%. Like, I think Wes Fofana is our best centre back, but I'd say Johnny Evans is our most important centre back. So I'd 100% keep him. But then on the same wavelength, we need to be looking at bringing in another centre back, because we know, as you've mentioned there, Neil, we know he sort of can't play every week, and we need someone who can come in when Johnny Evans is unavailable and long term take the reins from him.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is, Austin, in terms of that. Johnny Evans, and he is getting older. He's not really old, but the fact is he's getting to the latter stages of his career. I think he can hold on for one game a week, as we found out towards the end of the season. He can play one game a week or so, but any more than that, especially if we're looking at, for example, selling Shunchu, we need some backup. We need some leadership in that back line. Not because Johnny Evans isn't good, because we can't rely on him game in, game out because of his injury record and his age. And it's time to unmute your mic again.
I'll give it one time. Yeah, to me, he's a guy you have to have in our squad. I mean, these past couple of years, our injury problems and then our lack of form has been when Johnny Evans has gone down. He's just been absolutely necessary in our defense to deal with Fofana and Soyuncu together when we were at three in the back, and then now just Fofana. But I think him getting older and is going to be tough. And I think, like you said, we got to get him down to one game a week and hopefully elongate his career. But to me, he's still a vital part of the squad.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. And again, he's one to, when we say it's kind of the opposite of Rachel Fine, we don't build the squad around him, but he's still a very, very important player. We'll go on to, again, this will be the Ghanaian excellence we'll have to go on to. Again, his contract expires in 2022 as well. So him, Jakupovic, and then obviously Lookman that's on loan. We'll get onto that one in another video. But Daniel Amate, Alex, he's performed kind of, we talked about this in terms of when we did the award show and the underrated player of the season. He was mentioned a few times, but for that, is there what do you think about the Daniel Amate? Because it's such a, again, this is another one of those situations where it's a really hard one to judge.
I think Amate would do well. Amate, in the grand scheme of things, when I look at him at a club like Leicester, is a good fourth choice center back, maybe even a fifth.
Mm-hmm.
He was played primarily a third or second choice because of the amount of injuries and the lackluster play of our players during the season. Having said that, he's a toss-up for me because I feel like if the price was right and the term was good, I think you bring him back. And, you kind of see, what you're dealing with at your center back position. But at the same time, I'm very skeptical because I don't think he is what we need. We need more skillful players, and I don't know if Amate fits that slot. Having said that, I think I would let him go. It pains me to say that because he's proven, time and time again that he can deliver. But I just think at the end of the day, I think there's better options out there than signing him to a contract, even if it's for a year or two.
It's a strange one, and you know what? I'm going to give it straight over to you again. I'm not going to comment too much because I know you and me are on similar points in terms of Amate as well.
Yeah, and as Alex says, cheeky plug here, but there is better options out there. If you want to see 5, go and check my channel out. Video out today, 4 5-cent spikes. But thank you, Alex. No,
this isn't going out today, but it's on his channel.
But Dan Amate, yeah, I've got no problem with him being 4th, 5th choice centre back, but he should be that should be his role. Because of injuries, he's played a lot more than we would expect this year. But I think Alex has hit the nail on the head. Like, if the money's right, ship him off. But I don't think we should be actively looking to sell him if there's sort of not the right fee there.
Yeah, I kind of agree. And for his career as well, I mean, I don't know if he's been a backup player, a squad player since 2016, the beginning of 2016. That's 6 years now. For his own career, does he want to go on and achieve? And again, kind of, we talk about somebody that's achieved a lot, or I think, again, next season, I'm hoping so. Austin Ricardo Pereira, I mean, to get him back next season, with 1 game a week, with his injury record, I know, but with him playing 1 game a week on that right-hand side, and at the time of recording, we haven't signed a right winger or as out and out. He's going to be vital for us, and he signed a contract till 2026, so the club trust him to be part of the squad as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Hold on.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll leave Austin. Alex, over to you. Similar question. Ricardo Pereira is one for the future, right?
Oh, for sure. You don't sign him to 2026 if you don't think he's for the future. As long as he's healthy, I think that's the biggest one. If he remains healthy and he can continue the form that he's been in, when he is fully fit, it's not even a question. And I think the way that he plays, he can play as a right winger. Worst case scenario, you can't track down a winger. You plug him up there. But it all comes down to injuries. That's my biggest concern because he was kind of 50-50 this season. Dealt with some injuries here and there. But if he can stay fully fit, he's a great player. So as long as he does that, you hold on to him.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's so fantastic. Okay, in terms of that, he's one, Alec, and to build the squad around, really, isn't it? Because he's he's just such a good player overall as well for what we need. And as Alex was saying, going forward, he's that right player on that right hand side to creativity and to get us potentially could be a super sub as well, and he could be a veteran player.
Thing is, he's 28 as well, so he's one of those players that I think he's got that experience, and I think he will massively benefit from a season that he's had that hasn't been an easy one for him with the injuries, not really building up a pattern of getting back into sort of a rhythm of being a regular starter. I think he's one that will benefit massively from a pre-season and then one game a week, because before his injury, I will argue with anyone he was the most complete fullback in the Premier League in terms of his defensive and attacking output. So I think whether he gets back to that level, time will tell. Hopefully he can. But even if he gets back to sort of 80-90% of that, he could be a key player for us. And he's one of those that I think, like, if we can get him back towards his best, we're going to have a good year next year.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's just, again, these little things that we've picked up, and it's just the optimism that, again, it can always hurt you, but at the same time, you look at it, you go, right, we'll have to see again. Now we're going to throw Austin, probably just as easy as that one, in my opinion. Yannick Vestergaard. Thoughts? Because, yeah.
Get him as quickly out of this football club as possible. I cannot stand watching him another day. I mean, I don't even want to waste my time talking about it. Get him out.
He's one for sale, I think, as well. And I think we looked, John Percy put out as well, Yannick Vestergaard is one of the players that they're looking to get rid of less than 12 months after bringing him in.
Yeah, which says it all, really. And the thing is, I don't actually think he's a bad defender. He's just not a good defender for us. He's a decent centre-back in a team that will sit right on the edge of their box, where they don't sort of have to push up at all, where all he's got to do is sort of like defend with everything in front of him. Because we've got that higher line, he's just not capable of playing in it. So sell him for his own sake. And as well, we need the money because we're skint.
That sounds pretty much the entire thing. If we can sell them, get them a lot of money because we don't have any. Alex, I remember your I want to say you're not so famous, but amazing, famous to me rant after the Tottenham game where he came on. What are your thoughts?
Yannick Vestergaard would be perfect in a league where everyone is very, very short and can't jump. And even at that point, I don't know if he'd be able to head the ball while trying to defend a corner. Yeah, he needs to get out of this club. It's unfortunate because I think there was a lot of promise before he actually, started playing. And it clearly was it was not a match made in heaven. It was more like a match made in hell, not only for him, but for every supporter that had to watch. So I wish nothing but the best, but I hope he is not here next season.
It'll be so, if he's here next season, I mean, Burnley, if you're listening, I heard Ben Mee's on his way out. There's your replacement right there. Maybe potentially as well, even though he's not that kind of player. We will have to see.
Myself.
Try myself. Next one, again, we've got Timothy Castagna. Again, it's a bit of a weird one. And Tim, what do you think in terms of Timothy Castagna as well? Good player, really, again, kind of, he's always been a bit injury prone since he joined, but what an engine this guy has, and you just forget how good he is.
Yeah, I'd keep him. Like, for me, I would say if we don't sign any, this is as the squad is at the moment, he's the perfect rotation player to be able to play on the left, the right, and then if we're playing in a back three, like if needs must, he can come in at centre back. So for me, 100% keep.
For me as well. Anyway, Alex, what do you think about Castagna as well? Because again, considering we've got Justin there, Ricardo there, we've got some. Honestly, I think that's probably one of our strongest positions is fullbacks at the moment.
I think he's a great bench option. I think Justin has kind of cemented his position as starter there. But the fact that you have a player in Castagna that can come off the bench at any given time and really just take over that role, I think is exceptional. Because that's what you need. That's what we need right now as a club is we need talent to come off the bench. I feel like we've been really sparse this season. who we have on the bench, and you need to make that impact sub. And I think Castagna is the perfect and prime example of an impact sub.
Yeah, it could be even an impact sub, but also Austin, as I think Alex was mentioning, or Alex was mentioning earlier, when you got Ricardo playing in that right mid position, then you bring Castagna on as that right back, overlapping each other. I think that on that right hand side, we've got a real force to be reckoned with when these two really click. Yeah, got it this time, mate.
Yeah, no, I also feel this is also the issue we had when we were gonna buy him is does he fit in as fullback or do we put him in midfield? Do we put Ricardo in midfield? But I think we need to keep him. Not only does it give us an option, not only right back but left back, and give us an option right mid. It just gives us a little bit more freedom into our formations, and I think he's still a really good player, and injuries have kind of stopped that. But I think he definitely should stay in this squad.
Yeah, I think he's a great player for the squad as well. And it's a great squad player. Back just to move it back to one that we've got, one for the future, I think. And Luke Thomas, again, we're not going to go Kiki Sell, but for this one, he's not quite hit the levels that we know he can this year. And I think he just needs a run of games, doesn't he?
I'm going to slightly disagree there, mate. I think he's had a run of games, and he had a few games like Liverpool where he's looked brilliant, and then he's had other games, and a majority of them where he's looked completely out of his depth. And for me, I think he needs to go to the Championship and really prove himself, because he's not going to be a starter for us. And I think we're not going to see if he's sort of can develop into that player that we hope he can if he's sitting on the bench for us and just getting the occasional games in the cup. So for me, send him out on loan, and he's really got to go to either a lower Premier League club or a Championship club and really prove himself to see if he is good enough for this level. Because it's like for like as good as he was in the Liverpool game, then you can pull up, which a lot of people sort of pin himself onto. Then you've got 4 or 5 games where he has been very, very poor. And like in the Liverpool game as well, he defended brilliantly. But for the fullbacks and the way that we play, you need more than just being defensively solid. You need to be able to offer something going forward. And majority of the season, he's offered very little. So he's a player that I really like in terms of, and I think there's a very good player in there, but he needs to go and show that on a regular basis online.
And is that the case, Alex? I know Luton's like the go-to one because we have a good relationship with them. But just a season where he goes and plays every single game, or plays a consistent run of games, gets his confidence up. We saw what it's done for like Dewsbury Hall, for example. I know he's an anomaly, but you've seen when you see where one player has a run of games, they just after a while they just take into Premier League, especially with Ryan Bertrand. Looked like he'll finish his contract in 2023, then he could kind of slot in there as like second left back.
I think you loan him out. You loan him out because we've seen what he can do. But this season he struggled a lot. He had moments of brilliance, but he definitely did struggle this season. And I think to boost that confidence and kind of boost his development again, I think he needs to go out on loan. Kind of like what Ant said, I think it's either a Championship club or it's a lower Premier League club, just to really and give him that challenge. I think he really needs to be able to give him that mantle in the sense of being like, you're going to be our number one. You're here on loan, but we expect you to deliver, game in and game out. Because I think, while he's been here at Leicester, I think he's been given those opportunities, but he's still young. So, I think this is his prime. This is a prime time for him to go out on loan, get challenged in every way that he can, and then kind of like what KDH should, come back the next season and just blow us out of the water.
Let's hope so. Again, Austin, in terms of that, he's only still 20. There's still a lot of time and development, and he hasn't had that loan spell. He was brought in from the under 18s. I think he skipped the under 23s in total to go straight into the first team, made an impression, and then was his time seen to bed in. But it just shows you as well that gap between the loans, between the under 18s and under 23s and the Premier League, especially to where we're looking to fight the top half of the table, it's a big gap. And I think Alex is right. Just that loan will just help him his career massively. It's again, mate, full time.
Yeah, he needs the confidence too, and I think him loaning out and would be just absolutely massive for him. And I mean, he's a good player. We saw when he first came in, like we were like he could deal with this level, and I think just slowly he's lost that confidence, and I think he just needs that 1 year where he plays 40-ish games to get that confidence back.
Yeah, and hopefully you'll get that as well. And just a quick one, in terms of that, we look at the defense and looking at some of the players that we've got. I mean, there's some really good. It kind of made me a bit optimistic about next season as well, just looking at some of the talent we've got, especially in defensive parts.
Yes. And I would argue our defensive part is probably the weakest part of our team, and still some of the quality that we've got there is brilliant. Centre back needed, like undoubtedly, and I'm hoping that we will be signing one. I think I might be crying if we've got Johnny Evans and Fofana, and that's it heading into next season. But if we sign a decent, competent centre back who can really kick on, I think there's no reason we can't be challenging the top 6 again next year.
I can agree, Alex. And again, looking at the quality of play we've got, especially some of the younger players that just need this little bit more experience. And with the new club doctor coming in, hopefully we can keep them more fit. Without Europe, we've got less games, less chance of injuries. It can only be a good thing. And we were complaining on towards the end of the season, and rightfully so. But when you look at it like that, you just go, we've got a hell of a squad.
You know what? I thought long and hard about this, primarily about not being in Europe. And I know it sucks, and I know we can all talk about how much it's a disappointment. But I think it's a good reality check for the squad. I think over the last season, especially, we're kind of just riding the wave of being like, well, we're in Europe, we can, we're enjoying this. The club and the players can really focus in on the league now and be like, you're going to have all these clubs really playing, European football and Premier League football with all the cups as well. Where Leicester are just going to be like, we don't have European football this season. We can really focus in on the Premier League. And I think that's going to be key, because I think you're going to, if we can get a center back in, that can fill that role, and we can, whatever happens with our goal, contending, I think what's going to happen, I think, is that we have a lot of good, solid talents. And I think, this season, in a sense, kind of taking a break, really focusing in on the Premier League and focusing in on that, where we're going to finish, and let's finish for a top 6 position. I think we can. I think we're in for a good season. I think, having that little bit of a break is going to help us and benefit us in the long run.
I'm hoping so as well, Austin. Again, just to bare minimum to keep all these players fit. I mean, we've had so many injuries and over the last couple of years. Just to break, as Alex was saying, a bit of a breather and a bit just right. We push on to next season with those especially with the defenders. We've got a good squad. We just need to make the most of it now, really, haven't we?
Yeah, for sure. And I think me and you were talking about it off air after the end of the season, is that there's not a lot of these players that are going to play in the World Cup. So, I mean, they're going to get a month break in November. And I think that could be massive if we do get some injuries early in the season, hopefully not. But to get that whole month break, then we don't have to fit Europe in there. And I think that's just going to help our team a ton compared to some of these other teams that are going to have most of their squad go to the World Cup and have to fit in all these fixtures in a congested schedule after that.
Yeah, and as you were saying, I think like Wilfred and Diddy's not going. Well, we can go. Well, that'll probably be a separate video towards maybe in the when we get towards the World Cup. It's going to be a bit of free time, but there's going to be quite a few players that aren't going for that, and that can only benefit us again in terms of injuries and things like that as well. But again, it's a bit of a long one, guys. We're going to get the next video. We're going to go into the forwards and the midfielders section. Hopefully, we'll have some new panel on these panelists on for now. Make sure you follow these guys. Link in the description to all their Twitters and things like that. We'll see everybody in the next video. So goodbye.